Very good. Welcome to yet another talk here at Jhana Grove Comedy Centre and Meditation Centre and Deep Meditation Centre. And today I was going to talk more about insight. But remember what insight really means. Insight is the opposite of excite. So how many of you get excited whenever a nimitta comes up or something starts to happen, you get all excited? And what actually is excite? It means looking outside of this moment, outside of here to somewhere else. That is my definition of excite. And it's the opposite of insight. And insight is looking into this moment. Not looking over there, but looking right here with what you've got right now. And you will find that any experience you have in life, the pleasant, the unpleasant, whatever's happening, all that is fuel for your insight, which is a wonderful way of understanding these things. As long as you stay still enough, long enough to understand what this is, then you'll understand that you get insight into it. And the nice thing about insight is once you understand what's going on, you become free from it. That's the job of insight. Instead of trying to overcome it, control it, get rid of it, you stay with it, be still with it, understand it, and then you're free from it. Liberation through wisdom power. So for all of you who are suffering, frustrated, fed up, had enough, great. That's where you can do insights, meditation. So stay with it. Now this is insight. Now what should I bring up today? Let's put this up. So this is a definition of insight, or how it works. What is this? I ask people. Yeah, what else is it? What about, yeah, what else? Yeah, what else? What else? Yeah, 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 what else? Now, the meaning of this exercise is when you run out of words, then you may be able to see it. Why, when we ask what something is, we always want to find a label? And when we apply that label, we think, okay, we've got it, that's what it is, that's the answer. The answer is not any more labels. The answer is seeing things beyond all these labels. This is not a water bottle, that's only one aspect of it. It's not plastic, that's only one aspect of many. It's much bigger than that, much more than that, much deeper than that. So with insight practice, we take something, we just let our mind rest on it long enough to exhaust all the labels. Because what are those labels anyway? That's what you've been told by someone else it is. That's what you were told at school. Bottle, plastic, weight, size, whatever. But things are much more than that. And the reason why we never understand life is because we only see what we've been told to see. And we think that that's life. And we never actually go deeper into the meaning of things, into the experience of things. So with insight practice, you can take up anything and let your mind rest on it. That's why you need a bit of stillness and the calm practices. Rest on it, get rid of all the labels, and then see what's there. And then you get amazing insights. You see things which you haven't been taught. You know what's underneath the labels, what's before the labels. Even things like meditation. Do you know what meditation is? Yeah, I mean, you've got all these samatha, vipassana, or Ajahn Brahm's second noble truth, third noble truth, meditation, this meditation, that. But yeah, that's all the labels, isn't it? Peace, nimittas, you know what nimittas are? Yeah, you know the labels and you can describe it because you've listened to me say that so many times, but what actually is it? So that's why, to understand life and understand things, we have to take something, be with it long enough to really understand it. Now this is just ordinary things like water bottles. What about interesting things like happiness? What is happiness? It's amazing that you might go through your whole life and die before you understand what happiness is. You may think you know, and because you believe what other people say, that happiness is going out and getting drunk, happiness is going having sex, happiness is taking drugs, happiness is many, many things. And we just follow what other people do because we don't know any better. We just believe all the labels, we believe all the hype, rather than finding out for ourselves. So number one, insight, you have to be very rebellious. You have to put down everything you've ever taught so you can actually see what really is here. And that's where one of my sayings, never allow your learning to stand in the way of truth, comes from. You've got so much learning, you believe so much, and that stands in the way of truth, of real seeing. So insight means you have to make your mind so calm, even the thoughts stop. All those old ideas of what you thought it was, stop. And so you can see what these things truly are. Even one of the sayings of the Buddha, which is very, very short, but amazingly profound. He was saying that, what the enlightened ones say is happiness, the world says is suffering. What the world says is happiness, the enlightened ones say is suffering. Got it totally the wrong way around. And your pursuit of happiness, maybe you're not really pursuing happiness after all, you're just pursuing suffering. That explains a lot about your life, doesn't it? So, one of the great insights is insight into just happiness. What is happiness? And the only way you can do that, not think about it, because thinking about it is just more labels, more names. You have got to experience something. And as you get into these meditations, you experience that some of these states of meditation, wow, now that is real happiness. That is more delicious than anything you felt before. And that is the data, the ground for insight. You stay with these feelings in meditation. You stay with them. You don't think about them, just like the bottle. You watch, all the labels disappear, and then you know what this is. The knowledge comes first, and then you struggle to describe it. But it's not the words come first, the knowledge comes first, and then the descriptions. We see the thing first, and then we understand the signposts, not the other way around. Looking too much at signposts in life, the labels, we never understand where these things are pointing to. Which is why that this very simple insight practices, and I think I gave you one on the early days of this retreat. You take a word, a little mantra which you say to yourself, like peace. Remember that little, I did that piece before, let's do something different. Let's do compassion. 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 After a while, your mind, as it were, looks in the direction which that word is pointing to. Compassion. And you start to touch the meaning of compassion, what it actually is. It's not the label, but the thing. That part of the mental world which well deserves the label compassion. You feel it. You get to know it. And it's much more important in life to know compassion, to know what it actually is as a feeling, as an emotion, rather than to write books about it. So insight is knowing what these things truly are. And you can only get that insight with stillness. That's why the all wisdom arises from stillness. And you start to understand what compassion is and why it is. You understand just what peace is, why it's peaceful, what happiness is. And it really blows you away to realize that all the time you've been living, you've been following what other people say is happiness. I remember that. I used to go down to the pub. I went down to the pub, first of all, in London when I was only about 14. You know, totally illegal, but you know what people do. You know, you just try to be a man and just go in with your friends. And I had my first, only a half pint of British beer. And I thought I was so cool, so tough, you know, getting a beer. I was a man. But the trouble was, it was disgusting. I mean, it really tasted awful. And I had to drink it because of peer pressure. And I remember drinking my first half pint of British beer, and I thought, why do people spend money on this stuff? You'd have to pay me to drink it, not the other way around. It was disgusting stuff. But in the space of a few years, I grew to like it. Why? Because everybody was telling me how delicious it was and how tasty it was. It was part of the culture. People loved beer. They loved drinking alcohol. It was supposed to be the thing to do. And it was only the peer pressure, the conditioning made it be tasty. But actually, the raw experience, it wasn't tasty at all. Now you give it to a dog. The dog will never drink it. So that's an example. Much of the thing which you take to be happiness, which you spend your life doing, you know, it's just been totally conditioned on you. Which is why, if you want to find out the truth, one of the nicest places to find out of insight is actually how we think and why we do things. Because what happens, I'm just going a bit faster than I intended. One of the amazing insights you get in deep meditation, the meditation you're doing here, is actually on the nature of your will. The chooser, the one in control, the doer. Now you know you've been here long enough now to see that for the last, I don't know how many days it is, I've been encouraging you to let go, to stop controlling. And I've been teaching by example. You know, an unrestrained monk cracking jokes, stupid jokes, and they think, Ajahn Brahm used to be more controlled. But no, this is on purpose. I'm trying to taking away all the schedules, no bells. And when you come to interviews, you know, people, and sometimes I ask one of my monks, look, I feel tired, can you take on the interviews? And said, yeah, it's easy. All I've got to do is sit there and say, very good. Because no matter what you come up and tell me, you know, that, oh, I've just got a jhana. I say, very good. Oh, I just fallen asleep. You know, I want to go home. I'm terrible. I say, very good. That's all I ever tell you, isn't it? You should have noticed that by now. But why do I do that? It's because I'm not going to control you at all. Because I'm trying to encourage you not to control yourself, to let go, let things be. And it works. You find that, you know, because, you know, you're not under stress because you have to get up at a certain time and achieve certain things and behave in a certain way, because you're not under control, have you noticed you're relaxing and enjoying yourself and getting some happiness and some peace? Now that's easy for me to take off the external controls, but hopefully you're letting go of the internal controls as well. The internal controls say, come on, I've got to meditate. Come on, I've been meditating for a long time. I could do better than this. Come on, sit down. Only a couple of days to go. Come on, right, this is it. Go, 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 go. Now you see that before. Now, where does that lead to? And you would experience that leads to a lot of suffering, a lot of tension. You'll strive only to get disappointed. All striving eventually leads to frustration. You can't control the world. You can't control the people in your cottage. You can't even control yourself. You just get frustrated after a while. And when you fail, which everybody does, trying to control yourself in the world, you get guilty, you get angry, Just angry is more desperation when you're trying even harder to get your own way. Why can't that person understand? This is a retreat. I came all the way from overseas to come here and they just talk to each other and just mess my retreat. This is not on. We shouldn't have this. Ajahn Brahm should get out the masking tape. We've got masking tape here. Put it around your mouth. Anyone who speaks to, I threatened that on one retreat. Anyone who speaks too much, get the masking tape out. Just leave a little hole with a straw so you can eat and drink. Other than that, you can't talk at all. You have to. But have you noticed anger come up inside of you? When you're controlling and you failed? Where does that anger come from? It comes from the stupid controlling. And I've noticed in our modern world, because people are stressed out so much, they control so much, they go through this cycle. Control, frustration, anger, more frustration, more struggle. They really put a heap of struggle in trying to sort things out until they finally give up. And that's called depression. They can't win. They tried so hard, and they just totally give up. And that's one of the reasons why I made a link between how much people struggle in our modern world, how much they try to control, and the incidence of depression in this world. It's not the right way to go. Even on this retreat, some of you might feel depressed. I've got nowhere. It's because you've been trying to get somewhere. That's the reason why you've been controlling. So you'll find on this retreat, when you just relax and let go, eventually you get the message. You stop this will, wanting to be something different. Instead, you're content to be here, just happy to be with a stupid mind in this hot place, just getting nowhere. This is good enough for me. Wow, I'm just happy to be here. And when you let go of all of that craving and that wanting, just like that story of letting the arrow fly and where it falls you'll find the great treasure, you find that treasure. Wow, this is actually happiness when I let go of doing things. When I'm just totally content where I am. Just like when you were a little kid. 3, 4, 5, 6 years of age. You didn't want much in life. Totally in this present moment, enjoying yourself, stress-free. Now you can do that again. That's why I'm a little kid, and I behave like a kid. You don't worry so much, you don't control so much. So, you experience that. Experience there's a peace there. You feel that peace, that's the insight. This feels really, really nice, very, very beautiful, very wonderful. This is what I was looking for. And you realize it all comes when you let go of controlling. Through this practice here, day after day, sooner or later, the light bulb will come on in your mind. The penny will drop. Ah, this is happiness. This is meditation. This is peace. And the great thing is, I don't need to be any different. I don't need to be super meditator. I can be sick. I can be psychotic. I can be tired. I can be old. Doesn't matter what I am. I can always be at peace. It makes enlightenment, meditation, open at any time, in any situation, for any person. It just means being content. Not changing the world, but being at peace with it in this moment. Of course, later on you have to fight and do your jobs in the world. In meditation, you can be totally at peace and content. You are letting go of this controlling will, which is the problem. Craving, desire. So you get insight into this. And after a while, you get good at just letting go and being cool, chilling out, not always controlling things. That makes you such a more pleasant person to live with. When you go home, you're not so controlling to your partner, to your parents, to your children, to your life. You give people a break. You give them some latitude. You don't expect so much. You don't control the world so much, which means you can enjoy it much more. one of the ways of letting go, of controlling, letting go of your will. This comes from my background as a scientist, because some years ago a person asked me a question and it opened up an area of letting go, which I'm sharing with you now. And that was when they asked about this scientist, philosopher, engineer called Lord Kelvin. He was one of the founders of the Royal Society, and he was also one of the leading engineers and philosophers at the start of the Industrial Revolution in Europe. And it was him, this guy, who made this very important quote. The start of the Industrial Revolution and the beginning of technology. He said, if we want to control nature, we have to learn how to measure her accurately first. And the beginning of science and technology was being able to measure things with accuracy, whether it's length or whether it's time or whether it's weight, to get accurate clocks and measures. And then we could have our technology. And that was a very, very powerful insight which started the scientists learning how to measure things, and then technology came. And when they asked me what I thought about that, I usually, rebellious, turn it around. So that's so true. If you want to control nature, you've got to measure her accurately first of all. So if you want to let go, you have to stop measuring. I thought, wow, that's really very deep insight. When you don't measure, then all control becomes impossible. You have to let things be. So try not measuring in your meditation. Is it a good meditation so far or a bad meditation? What was it? I don't know. Can't measure it. Are you old or are you young? Depends what you mean. I can't measure it. Is it hot today or cold today? If you start measuring, look at some thermometer. Oh my God, it's over 40. That's hot. It's amazing how you feel very hot then. If you don't look at the thermometers, sometimes you don't know. It doesn't feel so hot. How many times when you stop measuring, you're at peace? And when you start to measure, how's your meditation been so far this retreat? When you start measuring it, you're in big trouble, aren't you? Well, terrible, only a couple of days to go, come on. Then you start controlling. So a wonderful way is not stop measuring. What about the people you live with? Do you measure them? When you do, that's when you get into control freak mode. So don't measure your husband. Don't measure your wife. Don't measure your kids. Don't even measure your dog. Actually, don't measure dogs. Dogs you just accept for who they are. That's why you can love them. Don't measure anything, and then you have to let go. So, no good, no bad, no peace, no sort of agitation, no sloth and torpor, no restlessness. Don't measure it at all. It just is, right now, in this moment. No measure, which means you can't do anything with it. Because when you measure, if it's good, it could be better. If it's bad, you've got to make it better. Whatever it is, it always gives you business to do once you measure, because it's never good enough. It's never perfect. That's the trouble with measurement. It always leaves too much busyness for you to do afterwards. When you don't measure, there's nothing you can do. You have to let go. So that's why, and now I'm borrowing from Mahayana. I know when I first said it, Ajahn Brahm is supposed to be a Theravada monk. Yeah, come off it. I'm a monk. I'm a Buddhist. Mahayana. And anyway, this was a quote from the third Zen patriarch, very famous. The path is easy for one without preferences. And of course, that was very famous when I was a young monk. And that's actually incredibly profound. Meditation is just so easy when you don't measure. You've got no preferences. This is good enough. It's called letting go again. Letting go of the will by giving it nothing to hang on to with measuring. And an interesting thing here is that when you, actually the word for measuring in Pali, because I like playing around with words. And again, the old Pali language, Pali Sanskrit, one of the very earliest languages of our human civilization. The word to measure is called maneti, and the word for mind is mana. They are related, very, very closely related. You might say that measuring literally means mind work. What the mind does is measure. And it's a very interesting thing. If you stop measuring, you don't measure, you let things be. The mind vanishes. At least that part of the mind called doing. This is actually how half of your mind disappears. The controller, the doer, by not measuring. The mind has nothing to do. The mind becomes still, and it goes. And what does that feel like? This is the insight you get. You let go, and something inside of you, which is always there, starts to vanish. You know, the doer, the control freak. You know what that is. And once you see what I mean by that control freak, that doer, you know, after a while you recognize that is not your friend, that's your enemy. That's caused you so much trouble throughout your whole life. Trying to get things done, do things struggling, and you never get it done. So that controller is actually seen for what it truly is. And the reason I call it a troublemaker is because once you stop it, stop all this doing business, you feel so peaceful, so free, so happy, and the world is fine. For those of you who haven't checked your mobile phone or emails on this retreat, I know that some of you got those little machines. If you haven't checked all your emails and phones, I guarantee that the world has gone on quite well without you. You aren't that important. Same as your will. If your will just stops, your life doesn't sort of fall apart. It actually gets much better. There's interesting things happen with, again, will and controlling. And this comes to a part of the meditation which I haven't really focused on yet. That sometimes when you're meditating, you're sitting here and suddenly you jerk, or suddenly you feel like you're floating up in the air, or suddenly feel you're ballooning out. Suddenly you feel like there's a hot spot somewhere in the body. And sometimes people get afraid when those things happen. But this is the nature of the body. If there's a jerk or a hot spot somewhere, well done, because your will has disappeared for a little while. Now your body can heal itself. I know this from personal experience and also from teaching a lot of the time, especially say hot spots in the body. You're sitting here, nice and peaceful, you're really getting into a nice meditation, not sort of struggling, but everything is nice and peaceful, and then part of your body gets really, really hot. You know what that is? That's a healing happening. The classic story I tell, because this is one of the first times when this started to work, or when I started to understand this as a teacher. Over in the North Perth Retreat Centre, which we used to hold our retreats before we got this place, a lady came along for interviews and said, this is something really weird is going on. After my meditation, my whole back was just so hot, like it was on fire, like a fever. What the heck is going on? And when she said that, I told her, I said, when did you have your whiplash? And then she stopped and said, it is true. You can read minds. How did you know I had a car crash? It's really funny. And I told her, so no, it's not reading minds. All it is, because I know that is the most common injury for the back and shoulders. And I know because of that hot spot, there was a great deal of healing going on there. And I just added 1 and 1 and made 2. That was the most likely injury. So I said there was a whiplash. It was. Because what happens that when you get out of the way, when you stop controlling, when you stop worrying, when that will disappears, at last your body can heal itself. At last, the energies of the body can flow to where they're needed, and you get these hot spots in your body. And afterwards you feel just so relaxed. I've seen that many, many, many times. And to me it just shows you that part of sickness is like trying to be well. It's it's the resisting the natural healing processes of the body, fighting them, thinking, do you know better? But for me, I know now that if I'm sick, I just let the body go. If I go into deep meditation, great. And in parts of the body, they move this way, they move that way. There was another woman, when she was meditating, I opened my eyes, and I was very, very concerned for her because her body was contorted. She said, I'll do all like this, but like this, but twice as much. I thought, wow, that must really hurt, the way she was contorted. And of course, I took her aside, are you okay? She said, yeah, I feel great. And I couldn't believe what she said, that she felt so good. I said, well, look, this is how you were sitting. She said, was I? I never knew that, but whatever it was, I feel really good. And I said, no, did you have any accidents? She said, yeah, I had a very bad accident some time ago. And of course, what was happening there, that her body knew how to position itself, for energy channels, healing channels, actually to open up, so it could heal those injuries which were still deep inside of her. And that's what her body needed to do. And that's it did it when she got out of the way. And so a lot of the time, if your body does weird things in meditation, a lot of the time it's healing itself. And you know that afterwards, because just like that lady, I feel great, after being contorted for an hour. Like that lady with the hot spots, she felt brilliant afterwards. Now I say that because it's great to have a lot more healing going on in our world. And meditation can do that if you get very still. You might get hot spots in parts of your body where there would have been a cancer. Because I know, because it's a huge thing, prostate cancer for men, breast cancer for women. It's great. If you get a hot spot in your breast, brilliant. Don't ever think, wow, what's going on? Think, wonderful. You're giving some healing there. And it happens that way. And, you don't get the breast cancers. You nip them in the bud before they get to you, because your body has got a natural way of healing itself and keeping itself well and fit. You just control so much. You get in the way too often. And meditation lets it go. You relax and energies flow. I have seen that again many times in myself and others, that you get very sick. I've seen this actually in the animals in the forest, in the jungle. Whenever a kangaroo is sick, it will just go under a bush and lay down as still as possible. And the stillness will heal it, if it's going to be healed. Human beings, when they get sick, they don't crawl under a bush. They jump up and down, help, help, I'm hurting. And they get frantic. That's why they continue being sick. So, that's what happens. And that's an insight to some of these problems which happen in a meditation. If you can try and let go, the healing happens. And you get much, much healthier. So, next thing, is actually I'm a very healthy monk. Last time I went to see a doctor was about, this is not socially, but because I was sick, was about 20 years ago, 21 years ago. Other monks get sick, but I keep on going and just really feel good, lots of health, simply because you're meditating a lot. But anyway, back to sort of the will, because people they want to know about what actually is this will. And this is where, I really want to focus on the big insights, understanding what this will truly is. But first of all, there is a couple of stories I like to say about the will. And just, you think that you are in control, but you are not. The first story was just how stupid I was when I was a young man. When I was a young man, chasing girls, enjoying myself in the world, I remember seeing a TV advertisement. And I always remember this. This is the St. Bruno tobacco story. And this was an advertisement on the TV. I saw this young guy, not particularly big or tall or strong or handsome, just an ordinary guy, just like me. And he was walking down the street of some town in England. This was an advertisement, a commercial. And he got out a pipe. These were the days when people didn't realize that tobacco causes cancer. And he put some Bruno tobacco in his pipe and lit it. And as soon as he lit the pipe, the aroma went into this newsagent shop he was just passing. And behind the counter was this drop-dead gorgeous blonde. And as soon as she smelt the aroma of some Bruno tobacco, she was enchanted. And she jumped over the counter and followed this guy, waiting to perform his every desire. And then they passed this greengrocer where there was this brunette, also like a supermodel. And she smelt the aroma of some Bruno tobacco. And she dropped what she was doing as well and joined the blonde, the second member of his harem. And then, and then another shop, and there was a brunette. And after about 1 minute, because this was an advertisement, this guy was followed by these incredibly gorgeous girls, totally enchanted with him. Because some Bruno tobacco went in the caption, irresistible to the opposite sex. It's really crazy, isn't it? Who would believe that? I brought some. I lit it. I walked down the street. No one followed me. Maybe a stray dog, that's all. How stupid can you be? I brought it. Just like some of you buy these cars or these bikes or these clothes which make you irresistible. You get Prada shoes or Gucci leather. Yeah, I'm cool. Why do you buy those things? Do you really think that you're immune to all the advertising? Do you really think that you can go into a shop and you have free will, what you buy? Or are you already conditioned by all that advertising on TV, radio, billboards, magazines? The thing with advertising is it lets you believe that it's not influencing you. You all believe that you're far more wise than to believe all that stuff. If that was the case, there'd be no money made in advertising. The truth of the matter is, it does influence you, much more profoundly than you think, which is why the advertising industry makes so many millions of dollars. It does affect you without you realizing it. So when you go into that supermarket, that shop, buy the car, you're already programmed, and you don't know it. That's the amazing but scary thing of advertising. It's true. That's why they make money. Number two, the next experience I had when I was at university, which really shocked me and made me be very suspicious of this thing I called my will, was in a lecture on hypnosis. Because I joined 3 societies when I was at Cambridge. The Astronomical Society, because I was always interested in those things. The Buddhist Society, and lastly, the Psychic Research Society, which investigated weird things. I was always interested in weird things, even today. Anything weird, please let me know. Ghosts, spirits, anything like that, I love. And actually, the head of that organization, the Cambridge Psychic Research Society, he later became he moved on to become the head ghost hunter of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Dr. Tony Cornell became a close personal friend. I remember him giving me his business card, Dr. Tony Cornell, and it had underneath, head ghost hunter of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. It's a really cool greeting card. And it wasn't sort of fake, he was the expert on ghosts in UK. Newspapers, scientists, if they wanted to ask questions, he was the one who would answer them. He'd go to all those houses with this incredibly expensive equipment, trying to get those photos, trying to get the recordings. He's an amazing fellow with amazing stories. Unfortunately, the last time, 2 or 3 years ago, he was very, very sick. I think he's died now. Otherwise, it'd be great to invite to Perth and tell all his ghost stories. That'd be very, very amazing. But anyhow, part of that Psychic Research Society, once a year we'd always get a hypnotist to come and do a demonstration, give a lecture. And of course, being students, young people, it was always hilarious. It was more entertaining than information. Because, you're a group of young men just going out for a nice evening of hilarity. So he would get volunteers, to be hypnotized. And you were a student. I volunteered. I went up there, but I'm not a good hypnotic subject. Only about 10% of people can be, hypnotized. And so, but there's always one. Every year there's always one who got totally sort of in the trance. And of course they made them do all sorts of stupid things, like drop the trousers and do stupid dances on one leg. And of course it was a big joke for us, but there's always a serious side for this. And the serious side, which I'll never forget, was when this hypnotist told this young student that soon he'll be taken out of hypnosis, but when the hypnotist touched his right earlobe, this student would stand up and sing the British national anthem in a loud voice. That was the command. And then he took him out of hypnosis, and the student went to sit down at his seat with everybody else. And a few minutes later, the hypnotist touched his right earlobe, and this student, in the middle of the lecture, stood up and sang "God Save the Queen" in a very loud voice in front of his fellow students who was peeing themselves laughing. It was just so incredibly hilarious and funny. But even though everyone was laughing at him, he didn't feel any humiliation at all. He continued singing to the very end. We thought that was just such a big joke, until the hypnotist stopped us laughing and asked this guy, "Why did you sing the British national anthem?" And this young student gave a logical reason. And that stunned me, because it was very, very clear to me and everyone else in that audience that that student was under the impression that he freely chose to sing the British national anthem. He justified it. Why it scared me? Because we all knew he had no choice. He was hypnotized to do that unnatural thing. And it made me doubt how many of those things which I say or do is my own free will. Because you cannot distinguish between what you're told to sing and what you think you desire to sing. You can't make any distinction there at all. To you, it feels the same. How many of your decisions are yours? And how many are being conditioned from outside? When you really get on to understand and have insight into the nature of will, you'll find it's totally outside conditioning. You haven't made any choices at all. There's no one in there to make choices. Some of the things I say, where did this one come from? I look back and look back and look back, and if it's Dhamma, it's Ajahn Brahm. If it's jokes, it's from my father. He used to tell jokes, and that's why I tell jokes. It's not my fault, honestly. I've got no choice, I have to. Like one of his favourite jokes, I remember my father telling me this, and it's a religious joke. He said, "What fun does a monk have?" None, yeah. If you don't get that joke, ask somebody else. It's not true, but that came from him. So you can see where your conditioning comes from. Now, when you actually start to see that, that changes a lot of the way you look at your life. Number one, you realize why you do what you do is actually who you hang out with. That's why even the Buddha said, like, asewana chabalanang paditanacha sevana, associating with the wise is a great blessing. Associate with good people and you'll be good. Associate with other meditators and you'll meditate. Associate with enlightened beings and you'll become enlightened. It's just conditioning, that's all. It's the way it works. So you understand something about the will, but to really get those deep insights about what this will truly is, you have to use that great simile, which I mentioned earlier, of the tadpole and the frog. Tadpole, born in the water, grown up in the water, lived all its life in the water. How can it ever understand what water is? But one day the tadpole becomes a frog, and she leaves the water. You know, imagine a tadpole, you were a tadpole and now you're a frog, and you're standing on dry land for the first time. That is very weird. You wonder, what is this? This is really strange. I've never had an experience like this ever in my life. That's like deep meditation. What is this? This is weird. This is strange. A lot of the time you get terrified. You want to sort of jump back in the water as soon as possible because that's what you know and that's what you're used to. But in meditation sometimes you get to these stages which are totally different from anything you've experienced before. These are the deep meditations. And what happens to the tadpole, now a frog, thinks, this is weird. Why is it weird? And it soon realizes that something is missing. Something which has always been there throughout the whole of the time it can remember. Water is no longer there. It is now dry. Now the frog can understand what water is. It's that thing which is no longer there. That's the only way you can understand these things, when it's disappeared. And that is precisely how insight happens in meditation. When things like will, body, five senses, when that's always there for you, you can't understand it. But when these things vanish and disappear, it's weird, it's strange, and at last you can understand. Your physical body, do you understand it? What it is? Women's body, man's body, Asian body, Western body, old, young body. Do you really understand it? As a woman, do you understand what a woman is? You can't, because you've always been a woman. A man, can a man understand what a man is? I've always been a man, how can I know? It's only when you drop these things can you understand what they truly are. And this is what happens when the body vanishes. And where does that body vanish? In those deep meditations, what I've been teaching. You know, you sit there, you're in present moment awareness, silence, you know, you watch the breath disappears. You can't feel the body anymore. It's gone. Don't be terrified. You've now become a frog. Don't go back to being a tadpole. You're a frog. Investigate. What's this like? Until you know what it's like. Not with words, but feel it, know it. And then when you know what it's like not to have a body, you will understand what a body truly is. What a woman is, what a man is, what a Asian, what a humanity is. You know it because it's gone, and you can actually see it, as it were, from a distance. And that's how you know what this body is. And all those teachings of the Buddha, like subject to cessation, suffering, sort of non-self, you can know now because you can see it really clearly. And soon, that's actually first jhana. The second jhana is where you're a frog standing on this weird place. And the thing with the second jhana and above, that is where will has finally stopped. That's where you really are perfectly still. Nothing And you're totally still, nothing moves, because there's no more will, nothing to make you move, no shake, no tremble, nothing. That is weird and strange when you first get there. And when you come out afterwards, you think, wow, I was a frog standing in a place I've never been to before. And what was that like? And soon you notice that what was missing was this thing called will. And really, only from that experience can you understand what this will truly is. And that's such an important thing for human beings to understand. That is what drives you. That is what you get frustrated about when the will doesn't achieve its aims. That's where you get guilty, when you make a choice and it turns out to hurt somebody. And you don't understand what's going on. That is why, if you understand what will truly is, this thing which chooses, this thing which moves you, which makes decisions and carries them out, if you could actually see that clearly, things like compassion and forgiveness would be second nature to you. You would never even think twice about punishing yourself for an act of will which was totally conditioned and out of control. Why punish yourself? It's not your fault. It's no one's fault. There's no one in there. So if you can only see that, then you'll be free from so much mental turmoil. You'll be able to really let go, big time let go, when you realize that what you're really letting go of, your will, doesn't belong to you anyway. It's much better, much easier to let go of other things, to give away things which don't belong to you. There's this lovely story, because I haven't told much of a joke yet, I'm getting too serious. Please excuse me, but this is misogynist, so I'm warning you. But it's very funny, and I don't take any responsibility for it because this comes from Sufi Islamic culture. So, I'm free from any blame, but I'm just telling the story. And this was this really, really cool mullah called Nasruddin. He got lots of stories about this in the Sufi tradition. And this mullah Nasruddin, he was a very, very wise, very sharp, and really a bundle of laughs. Not like the mullahs these days. The mullahs in Iran these days, they're really sort of sourpusses and dour and don't crack jokes. But this guy, he was really something. That's why in Islamic culture, they have all these wonderful books about the adventures of Mullah Nasruddin. But anyway, on this occasion, he was living in his town, and they had one of these really great holy men living in the town who started to get sick. He was getting old and dying. So they made a collection and got a very expensive doctor. And the doctor sort of started treating him, but eventually there was nothing more the doctor could do. And they were soon to lose, their spiritual leader. And so the whole town got a meeting. What can we do? This is a tragedy. Our leader, the fellow who inspires us and teaches us and guides us, he's about to die. What are we going to do? This is a tragedy for our town. And this one man stood up and said, I've got a great idea. I'm going to donate 3 days of my life. So Allah, please take 3 days of my life and give it to this holy man so he can live a few days longer. Can anyone else also donate some of their life so this guy can live longer? And so someone else came up and said, yes, I donate 7 days of my life. I donate 10 days. I donate 2 weeks. And Mullah Nasruddin came up and said, I donate 10 years. And the people say, wow, donating 10 years, that's a lot of your life to donate so this holy man can live longer. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. You're so generous, so selfless, willing to sacrifice 10 years of your life so this teacher can work and help the people. That's really impressive. And then Nasruddin said, 10 years, not of my life, I donate 10 years of my wife's life. I told you it's misogynist. It's nothing to do with Buddhism, nothing to do with Australia, so we're okay. But It just shows you how easy it is to give something away which doesn't belong to you, which belongs to somebody else. Which is why, when you realise the world doesn't belong to you, it's very easy to give it away. It's not mine, I can give anything away. You give things from the Buddhist society away, it doesn't belong to me. So, seeing that this world doesn't belong to you, it's much easier to let go and do nothing and be peaceful. That's why just seeing that much, having that insight, makes meditation, makes life so much easier. You're more easygoing. You're not a control freak anymore. You just flow with things. You don't resist things. Yeah, if it happens, it's good. If it doesn't happen, yeah, it's good. It's all right, no matter what happens. You're not such a control freak. Actually, last night they did say that one of those stories, which now comes up, because of this insight thing, is about the good, bad, who knows story. Because somebody asked me when I was suggesting stories last night, I did the five finger stories, the good, bad, who knows? How many of you haven't heard that good, bad, who knows story? Okay, enough. Once upon a time, there was a king out hunting. He loved hunting, that was his sport. And as he was out hunting, with his entourage, he cut his finger. So he called a doctor who was in the entourage and said, "Doctor, look at my finger, it's cut." And the doctor looked at it and sort of, put a Band-Aid on. And the king said, is that good enough? Is that okay? Is it going to be all right? And the doctor said, good, bad, who knows? He's a very philosophical doctor. But it's not really reassuring. If you go see your doctor and they get the biopsy, is this going to be okay? And he says, good, bad, who knows? But anyway, that's what the doctor did. So he carried on hunting. And by the time he got back after the hunt, the finger was inflamed, it was all red and swollen. So the king called the doctor over again and said, yes, and it's got infected. So the doctor cleaned up the wound, put on some ointment and did a proper bandage. And after treating it properly, the king asked, is it going to be okay? And the doctor said, good, bad, who knows? And again, not very reassuring. But a few days later, it actually got so much worse, the doctor had to amputate it. And the king was not amused. He was very upset. He was so angry at that stupid doctor, he put him in jail, threw him in the dungeon himself. You stupid doctor, you should know better than that, all this good, bad, who knows business. So you're in jail, okay, how do you like it? And the doctor replied, being in jail, Your Majesty, good, bad, who knows? And that was a very, very dumb doctor, so the king thought. So soon, when the wound was healed, the king was out hunting again. And this time he was following some animal on his horse, chasing after it, and he got separated from the rest of his party. He was by himself. And he got lost. And soon he got captured by these indigenous people who lived in the forest, because it was their holy day, and they were looking for a human sacrifice to their god. And now they found one, a king. Wow, that's really auspicious. So they took this poor king to the clearing in the forest. They tied him to a tree, and they started dancing up and down, doing all their mumbo-jumbo. And the priest got out the sacrificial knife and started mumbo-jumbo. Stop encouraging me. And the priest took the knife and was just about to slit the king's throat when he noticed, hey, this man, he's only got 9 fingers. He's not perfect. We can't offer an imperfect gift to our God. Just like you bring me food. If it's imperfect, you wouldn't offer it to me, would you? Please, no. But if it's a God, wow, no, you can't offer anything imperfect. He's only got 9 fingers. He's not good enough. So they set him free. On account he'd only got 9 fingers. And as he walked back to the palace, he thought, wow, that doctor was so wise. I thought losing a finger was bad, but actually it saved my life. So as soon as he got back to the palace, he went straight to the dungeons. He released the doctor and apologized. Now I thought that you were stupid when you said good, bad, who knows. I thought losing a finger was one of the worst things which ever happened to me, but it actually saved my life. Thank you so much. And I really apologize. It was a bad thing I did to put you in jail. And the doctor said, Sire, did I not say being in jail, good, bad, who knows? It wasn't bad being in jail. In fact, it was very good. Because if you hadn't put me in jail, I would have been on that hunt with you. I would have been captured, and I've got 10 fingers. I'd have been killed. So putting me in jail saved my life. So the moral of that story is, whatever happens to you in life, good, bad, who knows? That's why you don't control things. Whatever happens in life, good, bad, who knows? I remember when I was 19, I fell in love. And my girlfriend dumped me. I thought it was very bad at the time. It was terrible dumping me like that. But was it good, bad? Actually, it was very good. If she hadn't have dumped me, I'd never become a monk. Oh, thank you, girlfriend, wherever you are. So remember that in life. Good, bad, who knows, whatever happens in life. At the time, you think it's bad. You know, you get dumped, you get divorced, you know, you get sick, you know, you lose all your money on the stock market, whatever happens. Is it bad? Is it good? Who knows? Wait and see. That means you don't become such a control freak in life. Steve Jobs getting sacked from Apple. You know that story? And that made him as a man and as a business. He went back again to Apple Macintosh, but he got sacked. And he says that was the best thing which happened to him. At the time, he thought it was bad. But if I'd have been there at the time and said, Steve, good, bad, who knows? We'll wait and see. So that is wisdom. That stops the will. That stops controlling. That makes you much more at peace in your life. That gets insight into this thing called craving and controlling and will, which is one of the most important things to understand in life. Otherwise, you just don't know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And that creates a lot of problems, not just for you, but for other people as well. So that is a talk this morning. I hope you enjoyed it. Was it a good talk? Bad talk? Who knows? Exactly. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good.